The call came deep in the quiet of the night, long after the neighborhood had settled into darkness. A call no best friend should ever receive from the man she trusted almost as much as her own family. Rebecca Hayes sat up in bed the moment her phone buzzed. The screen glowed in the shadows of her small apartment, and her heart kicked hard when she saw the name. Evan Miller. Her best friend's husband. The time showed just past midnight. Rebecca stared at it, confused, because Evan never called her. Not at noon. Not at dinner. And definitely not at a time when the world felt half asleep. She took a breath, steady and low, trying to slow her pulse. She told herself it had to be something simple. Maybe he needed to ask where Claire had left something. Maybe he misdialed. But another buzz came, almost pleading. She answered. Rebecca, Evan said, his voice calm but tense, like he was trying not to wake someone. I know it's late. I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to call. That alone made her sit fully upright. Evan was steady, dependable, and never dramatic. For him to call her of all people meant something was wrong. Very wrong. What's going on? She whispered. There was a pause that stretched just a little too long. Rebecca heard something in the background. A muffled thump. A shift of air. I need to talk to you, he said. And I need you to listen carefully. Rebecca felt the cold sweep of dread move up her spine. She thought of Claire, her best friend since childhood, the one she trusted with every secret. The one who married Evan after years of steady love, the woman who seemed to live inside a warm storybook life. Is Claire okay? Rebecca asked. Evan hesitated. His silence answered more loudly than words. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed. The carpet felt cool beneath her feet, and her fingers trembled as she reached for the lamp switch. A soft light filled the room, chasing off the shadows but not the fear. Evan, what happened? She asked. I don't want to talk on the phone, he said. Not about this. But I need you to know something before tomorrow. And I need you to be careful. Careful. The word hit differently. It wasn't casual. It wasn't vague. It was a warning. Rebecca swallowed hard. I don't understand. You will, he said. Just promise me something. What? If anything feels off tomorrow, or if Claire asks you something that makes you uncomfortable, don't answer right away. Call me first. Rebecca tried to breathe normally, but every inhale felt tight. What are you talking about? Has something happened between you two? Another pause. The quiet on his end didn't feel empty. It felt tense, like someone else might be listening. Finally, Evan said, Claire isn't the person you think she is right now. And she's not acting like herself. I don't want you caught in the middle. Caught in the middle of what? The thought flashed sharp and unsettling. Rebecca and Claire had fought before, sure. Bumps in life. Miscommunication. Stress. But nothing serious. Nothing that could lead to a midnight call from Claire's husband warning her to be careful. She closed her eyes, her mind racing with half-formed guesses she couldn't settle on. What happened tonight? She whispered. Evan's answer came out soft. Almost broken. I can't explain yet. I need proof first. But please, trust me. Trust. Rebecca wanted to. But this didn't feel like a simple relationship issue. This felt bigger, heavier, like a storm gathering beyond her window. Evan, she said quietly, you're scaring me. I'm scared too, he replied. Her chest tightened. Is Claire safe? Rebecca asked again. This time Evan responded quickly. Yes. She's asleep. But things aren't right, Rebecca. Not with her. Not with what she's been doing. You'll see soon enough. Rebecca felt the night close in a little, the lamplight suddenly too soft to make her feel secure. She rubbed her forehead, trying to push away the anxious fog gathering around her thoughts. What do you need from me? She asked. Evan exhaled, as if steadying himself. Tomorrow, Claire's going to reach out to you. She'll want to meet. She'll ask questions. Personal ones. Don't lie, but don't give more than you have to. I don't want you getting pulled into this. Pulled into what? She couldn't stop thinking the question, but she knew he wouldn't tell her. Not tonight. You sound like you're afraid of her, Rebecca whispered. He didn't answer. Evan. Nothing. The silence stretched so long she thought the call had dropped. She pulled the phone back, checked the screen, then pressed it to her ear again. Finally he said, so quietly she almost didn't catch it. I'm not afraid of her. I'm afraid of what she's hiding. The words settled heavy in the room. Rebecca felt something shift inside her, a slow building fear that made her heart thud steadily against her ribs. Claire. Her Claire. The friend who cried during sentimental commercials and baked banana bread when stressed. What could she possibly be hiding that would make her husband call someone else in the dead of night? What should I do right now? Rebecca asked. Evan sighed. Just get some sleep, if you can. Tomorrow, everything will look different. Rebecca shook her head slightly. I don't think I can sleep after this. I know, he said softly. I'm sorry. Before she could ask anything else, before she could demand more answers, Evan's voice lowered even further. I have to go. She's moving. Rebecca froze. She's awake. Rebecca whispered. No, he said. Just turning in her sleep. But I can't risk her hearing me. She imagined him standing in a dark hallway, phone pressed close, speaking in a whisper because he feared his own wife overhearing. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Call me tomorrow, Evan said. Please. Then the call ended. Rebecca sat there, the quiet of her apartment suddenly too sharp, too aware. She held the phone loosely, staring at the screen long after it dimmed. Questions circled her mind. Fear pressed close. And something deep in her gut told her tomorrow would bring answers she wasn't ready for. But she also felt something else. Something softer. A small, aching worry for Claire, for the friend she loved like family. Whatever was happening, Rebecca wasn't sure she wanted to know. But she knew she'd find out soon. Very soon. And when she did, everything might change. Rebecca woke before dawn, long before the sky even hinted at light. She hadn't meant to. Her body just jolted awake, like her mind had been waiting for the moment her eyes opened so it could overwhelm her with everything she tried not to think about during the night. The call. Evan's voice. His warning. She lay still for a moment, staring at the faint glow of the streetlight filtering through the blinds. The room felt different. Not dangerous, just tense, like the air held its breath with her. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. No missed calls. No messages. For a moment she wondered if she had imagined the whole thing. Maybe the late hour had twisted something small into something bigger. But the memory of Evan's tone, low, strained, burdened, was too sharp to be imagined. She sat up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. A knot settled in her stomach as she tried to piece together what could possibly be happening. Claire wasn't unpredictable. She wasn't impulsive or reckless. She was steady, thoughtful, the kind of friend who planned weekend trips months ahead and triple-checked calendars. But Evan's warning kept echoing in her head. Claire isn't the person you think she is right now. Rebecca pressed her fingers into her temples. The thought felt wrong. But so did dismissing it. By the time the sun started to rise, soft and pale through her window, she knew she wouldn't get any more rest. She got up, brewed coffee, and tried to focus on the simple motions, pour, stir, breathe, small anchors against the storm in her mind. When her phone finally buzzed around 8 in the morning, she flinched. Claire. Just seeing her name broke something open inside her. Familiar warmth. A surge of worry. And underneath it, the faintest ripple of fear. She answered quickly. Hey, Claire. Morning, Claire said, her voice bright, almost cheerful. I was hoping you were awake. I wanted to see if you were free today. The question landed exactly where Evan said it would. You want to meet? Rebecca asked, forcing her tone steady. Yeah. Maybe late morning. I've been meaning to catch up. I feel like we haven't talked in forever. That wasn't true. They'd texted less in the past couple of weeks, but nothing unusual. Nothing that felt like a shift. But now, every detail felt loaded. Every tone, every word. What time? Rebecca asked. How about 10:30? Rebecca hesitated. Just a fraction. Barely noticeable. But she felt it. And Claire sensed it. You okay? Claire asked, her voice softening. Rebecca swallowed hard. Yeah. Just tired. Long night. Not a lie. Not the truth either. Do you want to come over? Claire asked. Or we can meet somewhere. Whatever feels easier. Meeting at Claire's house felt like walking into the unknown. But meeting somewhere else wasn't better. Not really. Rebecca inhaled slowly. Your place is fine. Perfect, Claire said. I'll make coffee. Anne. Becky, it means a lot. I feel like I really need this. The genuine warmth in Claire's voice almost made Rebecca crumble. It sounded like her friend. Like the woman she loved like a sister. Not someone hiding something. I'll be there, Rebecca said softly. After they hung up, she stared at the phone for a long time. She wanted to believe everything was normal. But the call from the night before didn't let her. Around 10:15, Rebecca left her apartment. The air outside was crisp, a cool wind brushing across her cheeks as she walked to her car. She tried to breathe through the tension twisting inside her chest. Claire and Evan lived only 15 minutes away, in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved during walks. A safe place. A gentle place. Driving there felt surreal. As she turned onto their street, she slowed. Everything looked the same. The trimmed lawns. The neat porches. The familiar pale blue house at the end. But something inside her insisted everything was different. She parked and sat still for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Her phone was in her purse. Evan had told her to call him first if anything felt off. But what counted as off? Rebecca stepped out of the car, smoothing her jacket even though her hands trembled a little. Claire opened the door before she could knock. There you are, Claire said warmly, pulling her into a hug. Rebecca stiffened for half a second, then forced herself to relax. Claire smelled like vanilla lotion and fresh laundry. Exactly the same. You look tired, Claire said gently when they pulled back. It was just a long night, Rebecca said. Nothing big. Claire studied her face a little too intently. Just a moment. Then she smiled again. Come in. I made coffee. The house was spotless, sunlight spilling across the hardwood floors. The faint smell of cinnamon drifted from the kitchen. Everything looked normal. Claire poured coffee for both of them, and they sat at the small dining table near the window. For a few minutes, they talked about familiar things, work, schedules, small frustrations. It felt almost like any other morning. Almost. Then Claire leaned forward. Becky, she said softly, can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. The air shifted. Rebecca felt it immediately. Her heart thudded once, hard. Of course, she said, her voice calm though her palms felt suddenly warm. Claire studied her again, her expression thoughtful but unreadable. Did Evan call you last night? Rebecca's breath caught. Just a small pause. But Claire saw it. Her eyes sharpened the slightest bit, though her voice stayed soft. I woke up around 1, Claire said. He wasn't in bed. I heard him talking quietly in the hallway. This morning he acted like nothing happened. Rebecca tried to stay steady. Tried not to show the way her mind was racing. Did he call you? Claire repeated. Rebecca remembered Evan's warning. Don't lie. But don't give more than you have to. So she took a breath, slow and careful. He called, Rebecca said. Just for a minute. He said he needed to talk to me today. Claire's jaw tightened. Not in anger, something else. Something more complicated. What did he tell you? Claire asked. He didn't explain, Rebecca said. He just sounded stressed. Claire looked down at her coffee cup. Her fingers tightened around the handle. I knew it, she whispered. Rebecca leaned in slightly. Knew what? Claire lifted her eyes, and what Rebecca saw in them wasn't anger or jealousy. It was fear. Raw, real fear. Becky, she whispered, voice trembling just slightly. I need to tell you something. And once I do, you won't see Evan the same way again. The room fell quiet. Rebecca's pulse pounded as Claire drew in a shaking breath, bracing herself to speak. But before she could, a soft sound echoed from down the hallway. A floorboard creaking. A slow, heavy step. Someone else was in the house. Rebecca froze at the sound. It wasn't loud, but it was distinct, a steady creak in an older hallway where only one person should have been walking. Claire's eyes flicked toward the hallway, then back to Rebecca. She didn't look surprised. She looked braced. Is Evan here?" Rebecca whispered. Claire shook her head once. Slow. Purposeful. "No," she whispered back. The quiet pressed in around them. A tension so thin and sharp it felt like it could cut the room in half. Another step sounded. Closer this time. Rebecca felt her breath shorten. She leaned in just a fraction. "Who's in the house?" Claire swallowed, her fingers gripping her coffee mug so tightly her knuckles turned pale. "I'll explain," she whispered. "Just stay calm." Calm. Rebecca almost laughed at the idea. Her heart thudded so hard she could feel it in her throat. The steps stopped. Silence filled the hallway again, thick and watchful. Claire stood slowly. "We're moving to the living room," she said softly, as if announcing it to someone they couldn't see. Rebecca stood too, unsure whether to be relieved or more afraid. Claire didn't seem panicked, but she also didn't seem safe. They walked to the living room, a bright, neatly arranged space with soft beige furniture and framed photos along the walls. The normalcy felt strange now, almost eerie. "Sit," Claire said. Rebecca obeyed, her mind spinning with every possibility she didn't want to imagine. Claire sat across from her, folding her hands tightly in her lap. She took a breath. "Evan isn't who you think he is," she said quietly. Rebecca blinked. "He called me last night because he was worried about you." Claire smiled, small and sad. "That's exactly what he wants you to believe." Rebecca's pulse skipped. "What does that mean?" Claire leaned forward slightly, her voice low, steady but trembling underneath. "I know he called you. I know he warned you about me. But Rebecca, that's his pattern. He isolates. He twists things. He confuses people until they don't know what's real." Rebecca frowned. She had never known Evan to be manipulative. He was calm, rational, almost predictable. "Claire, he didn't sound manipulative. He sounded scared." "I know," Claire whispered. "He's good at that. Really good." Rebecca tried to piece the two versions together, but nothing aligned. Last night Evan was frightened. This morning Claire looked terrified. Someone wasn't telling the truth. "Becky," Claire said softly. "I've been keeping things to myself. Things I didn't want to drag you into. But last night, he crossed a line." Rebecca leaned forward, her voice gentle. "Claire, if something is happening, you can tell me. I'm here." Claire's eyes glistened. She nodded. "I woke up around 1. Evan wasn't in bed. When I got up, I heard him in the hallway whispering into the phone. He was saying your name." Rebecca's stomach twisted. "Then," Claire continued, "he told whoever he was talking to that he had to make sure you chose the right side. He didn't know I was listening." "The right side of what?" Rebecca asked. "That's what terrifies me," Claire whispered. Silence filled the space between them. Outside, a bird chirped somewhere in the yard, too bright and normal against the heaviness inside the house. Rebecca's mind flicked back to the steps in the hallway. "Claire," she whispered, "who else is here?" Claire hesitated. Her eyes drifted toward the hallway. "I had to ask my brother to stay over last night," she said quietly. "I didn't want to be alone with Evan after what I heard. He's in the guest room. He won't come out unless I ask him to." Relief washed through Rebecca so suddenly she sagged against the couch. Not a stranger. Not something dangerous. Just Claire's brother. But the relief evaporated quickly. Because Claire's explanation didn't solve the biggest problem, it only raised more questions. "Why didn't you call me?" Rebecca asked softly. "I wanted to," Claire said. "I almost did. But then Evan came in this morning and acted like everything was normal. Too normal. He made breakfast. He joked about the day ahead. It felt staged." Rebecca remembered his voice from last night, strained, urgent, nothing like what Claire described. Claire looked down at her hands, voice trembling. "I think he wanted you to believe him before I had a chance to tell you anything. He knows you trust me. He knows I trust you. If he can pull you to his side first." Rebecca finished the thought in her mind. Then Claire looks like the one hiding something. The room felt too quiet again. Rebecca's pulse tapped fast and shallow against her ribs. Claire, she whispered, I don't know who to believe. Claire nodded slowly, eyes full of pain. I know. I hate that you're in the middle of this. But please hear me when I say this, Evan is not telling you the truth. And if he called you past midnight, he's planning something. Rebecca wanted to deny it. She wanted to cling to normalcy, to the image of Evan and Claire as the steady couple she had always admired. But nothing about last night was normal. And nothing about this morning felt safe. What is he planning? Rebecca asked. Claire shook her head, her voice almost a whisper. I don't know. But I think he's desperate to control the story. And if he's desperate, that means he's afraid of what I'm going to say. Rebecca's hands tightened around her knees. Claire, what are you going to say? Claire looked up, eyes sharp with something between fear and resolve. That Evan has been hiding something from both of us. Something big. Something he can't let you or me uncover. Rebecca's breath caught. What is it? Claire opened her mouth to answer, then froze. A shadow moved in the hallway. Slow. Deliberate. Claire's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. Becky, his home. Claire's face drained of color. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway, then back to Rebecca with a silent plea. Rebecca's breath caught. Her pulse hammered so hard it felt like the room moved with it. Claire, she mouthed, I thought you said. I know, Claire whispered, barely audible. He wasn't supposed to be home until noon. The shadow shifted again. Not fast. Not threatening. Just present. Steady. Watching. Rebecca's chest tightened. The hallway stretched long and dim, the sunlight from the living room not quite reaching its edges. The air felt heavier now, thick with something that made her whole body tense. Claire stood. Rebecca followed her instinctively. Both women stayed silent for a few seconds, listening. A soft click echoed from somewhere down the hallway, the unmistakable sound of a door being gently pushed shut. Claire flinched. Stay behind me, she whispered. Rebecca hesitated. Claire. Please, Claire said, her voice trembling. I don't know what mood he's in. Before Rebecca could respond, the hallway lit with a sharp beam of sunlight. Because someone had opened a window or blinds deeper inside the house. Then footsteps. Not rushed. Not slow. Measured. Approaching. Rebecca felt her throat close. She instinctively stepped closer to Claire, though she wasn't sure who she should be afraid for. Claire, herself, or Evan. As the steps grew louder, Claire lifted her chin slightly, steadying herself. But Rebecca could see the fear in her posture, in the tight way she held her shoulders, in the way her fingers curled into shaky fists. A figure finally appeared at the end of the hallway. Evan. He stepped forward into the light with a calm expression, one that didn't match the tension coiled inside Rebecca's chest. Good morning, he said softly, as if nothing were wrong. Didn't expect you two to be up so early. Rebecca stared at him. His voice didn't sound like the man from last night. It was warm. Pleasant. Almost gentle. Claire kept her tone flat. You said you were working until noon. Evan smiled faintly. Plans changed. Claire didn't smile back. Her voice sharpened. You didn't text. You didn't call. I didn't want to wake you, Evan replied, still calm. You seemed exhausted this morning. Rebecca watched both of them closely. The tension rippling beneath the surface felt almost physical. Evan finally turned to Rebecca. Sorry if I startled you, he said kindly. Did Claire at least offer you coffee? Rebecca nodded, unable to find her voice. Good, he said. His tone had the easy warmth of someone trying to keep peace. Or keep control. I was just telling Rebecca something, Claire said abruptly. Her voice was low but firm. Evan gave her a curious look. Oh, what about? About last night, Claire said. The words dropped into the room with weight. Rebecca saw the shift immediately. Evan didn't flinch, didn't panic. But something behind his eyes tightened. Barely. But it was there. He slid his hands into his pockets, posture relaxed. Claire, he said gently, whatever you think you heard. I heard you, Claire cut in. And I heard her name. You said Rebecca needed to choose a side. Rebecca stiffened. Her breath stilled. Evan turned to her with soft disbelief. You think I said that? At 1 a.m? His voice held confusion, hurt almost perfectly. Rebecca, he said, stepping closer, you can tell her the truth. You know I wouldn't drag you into anything like that. Rebecca swallowed hard. She felt both pairs of eyes on her, waiting. Her voice came out small. You did call me. Evan nodded calmly. Yes. I did. I was worried because Claire seemed off all day. I thought maybe she'd talk to you earlier and you could tell me if something was wrong. That's not what you said, Claire snapped. You lied, Evan. And you're lying right now. Evan exhaled slowly, like he was talking to someone on the edge of panic. Claire. Please. Let's not do this. Rebecca felt her stomach twist. Both of them seemed sincere. Both of them seemed afraid. But of different things. Evan took another step toward Claire. Look at me, he said softly. You're exhausted. You haven't been sleeping. You're stressed. That's all this is. Claire backed up a step, trembling. Don't talk to me like that, she whispered. Like what? He asked gently. Like I'm unstable. Claire, he said, I never said that. But you're implying it, she shot back. That's what you always do. Rebecca felt the air thicken again. This wasn't anger. It was history. Layers she didn't understand. Evan looked at her then, expression calm but pleading. Rebecca, he said, I called you because I was worried. Nothing more. I wanted to make sure Claire wasn't pulling you into something confusing. Claire let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. Confusing? Evan, you're the one hiding things. You've been disappearing for days at a time. You've been whispering on the phone at night. You've been lying about where you go. Evan's jaw ticked, just once. Again, subtle. But Rebecca saw it. I'm not hiding anything from you, he said quietly. Claire's voice cracked. Then tell her where you were last Tuesday night. Rebecca held her breath. Evan hesitated. Just a moment. Just long enough. Claire stepped back, shaking her head in heartbreak. That's what I thought. Evan's voice tightened. Claire. I don't have to defend every minute of my schedule. Because you can't, she whispered. Silence fell so heavy Rebecca felt it pressing against her chest. Then Evan spoke, his tone low. Controlled. Rebecca, he said, before this gets any more twisted, I think you should know something. Claire stiffened. Her breath hitched sharply. Don't, she whispered. Don't you dare. But Evan kept his gaze on Rebecca. There's something Claire hasn't told you, he said slowly. Something she's been hiding for months. Rebecca's pulse thudded painfully. She looked at Claire. Claire's face broke fear, desperation, something raw flickering through her eyes. Evan, she said in a trembling voice, please stop. He didn't stop. Rebecca, he said softly, she's not being honest with you. And before you take her side. His eyes hardened just slightly. You should know what she's capable of. Claire's breath snagged. Her hands shook. And then, from the hallway, a sudden, sharp crash. The sound of something falling. Heavy. Urgent. Claire gasped. Rebecca jumped. Evan turned toward the hallway. And in the stunned silence that followed, a familiar voice called out. Claire, everything okay? It wasn't Evan's voice. It wasn't Claire's brother's voice either. It was someone neither of them saw coming. The voice drifted from the hallway, steady, calm, and unmistakably familiar. Rebecca's breath halted. Her entire body went still. Claire looked as if someone had pulled the ground out from under her. Her face went pale, then flushed, then pale again. Evan turned sharply toward the hallway, surprise flickering across his features, genuine surprise, not the performative kind Rebecca feared earlier. Because the voice belonged to someone none of them expected. It was Mark. Claire's older brother. The brother who lived 3 hours away. The brother Claire said had stayed over last night. The brother Rebecca assumed was the source of the earlier footsteps. But the voice wasn't tired. Or newly awake. Or unsure. It was steady. Clear. Alert. like someone who had been listening for much longer than a single night. Mark stepped into view, tall, broad-shouldered, a quiet seriousness in his eyes. He wasn't wearing pajamas. He wasn't disheveled. He was fully dressed. He had been awake. Watching. "Mark," Rebecca whispered. He nodded once. "Hey, Becky." Claire looked shaken. "You weren't supposed to come out," she whispered. Mark's attention flicked between Claire and Evan. "I think it's time we stopped pretending this is a normal morning." Evan's jaw tightened. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low. "It sure looks like I should," Mark replied calmly. The tension in the room sharpened, ignited by something larger than fear, years of friction, old wounds, secrets that had never surfaced. Rebecca felt caught in an invisible current. Mark looked at her then, his expression filled with apology. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this, Becky. You didn't deserve any of it." Rebecca swallowed. "What is happening? Someone needs to tell me the truth." Claire pressed a shaky hand against her forehead. "Mark, please. Not like this." But Mark stepped forward, grounding the room with his steady presence. "Claire, you asked me to come because you were scared. You asked me to stay close because you didn't trust Evan." He turned to Rebecca. "And you deserve to know why." Evan's voice hardened. "Mark, don't twist this." Mark ignored him. He looked directly at Rebecca. "Evan's been disappearing because he's been meeting with a private investigator." Rebecca blinked. "What? Why?" To follow Claire, Mark said simply. Claire let out a small, broken sound. "Mark." Rebecca's breath caught in her chest. Her pulse stumbled. Evan finally spoke, quiet but sharp. "She hasn't been herself. She's been lying about where she goes. She hasn't been coming home when she says she will. She's been avoiding conversations. I thought something was wrong. I needed to know if she was safe." "That's not why," Mark countered. "He hired the investigator months ago. Long before Claire's behavior changed. He didn't trust her then. He doesn't trust her now." Evan's jaw clenched. "That's not true." Rebecca felt the room tilt slightly. She looked at Claire. Claire looked shattered. Eyes glossy. Hands shaking. "Rebecca," Claire whispered, voice tight, "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't betray Evan. I didn't hide anything. I've been trying to figure out his behavior, and every time I pushed back, he twisted it so it seemed like I was the problem." Evan stepped forward. "That is not what happened." Mark moved subtly between them. Not threatening, just protective. Rebecca tried to breathe through the swell of confusion and fear. "Someone tell me," she said softly. "Please. What is the real issue? What is all this about?" The room fell quiet for a long moment. Finally, Claire spoke. "3 months ago," she whispered, "I found out my identity was being used to access our joint accounts. Someone was opening credit lines in my name. Someone had my passwords." Rebecca stared. "You never told me." "I was embarrassed," Claire said. "And scared." "Scared of me," Evan cut in. His voice wasn't defensive, it was wounded. Deeply. Claire's eyes flicked toward him. "I didn't want to think it was you. I didn't want to believe it. So I checked everything myself." Evan stepped closer, voice soft. "Claire, I never touched your accounts. And I never believed you," Claire whispered. Mark crossed his arms. When Claire confronted him months ago, he denied everything. Instead of helping her, he hired someone to follow her. To monitor her. To see if she was the one hiding something. Evan shook his head, jaw tight. "That's not why I hired him. I was trying to protect her. Someone was clearly watching her. Someone had access to things they shouldn't." Rebecca blinked. "So, you thought someone else was following Claire?" Evan nodded. "Yes. She was being watched and didn't know it. I wanted to know who was behind it." Claire's shoulders trembled. "Why didn't you just tell me that?" Evan's voice softened. "Because you already thought it was me. And I couldn't convince you otherwise." Rebecca inhaled slowly. A different picture began forming in her mind, not neat, not simple, but tangled and human. Who was following her then? She asked quietly. Another silence. Mark shifted. Claire's breath hitched. Evan's gaze dropped. Rebecca waited, her heartbeat steady despite the tension. Evan finally lifted his eyes. The investigator found someone, he said quietly. Someone I didn't want to believe would ever hurt us. Claire whispered, Evan, don't. He continued anyway. Your ex-manager, Claire. The one you filed a complaint against. He's been tracking you for months. Accessing things. Interfering. Rebecca felt the air leave her lungs. Claire pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. Mark's face darkened with realization. Evan's voice cracked. And last night, he said softly, turning to Rebecca, I called you because I didn't know who he might reach out to next. I didn't know if Claire had told you everything. I didn't know how close this was getting. Rebecca's eyes stung. Claire's tears fell silently. She looked at Evan, really looked at him, for the first time all morning. You thought I was in danger, she whispered. Evan nodded once. I still do. Everything fell quiet again. Not sharp. Not hostile. Just quiet. Rebecca exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. So, all of this, she whispered, was fear. Claire nodded through tears. Fear, she said softly. And not enough honesty. From either of us. Mark stepped back, giving the couple space. Evan's voice softened. I never wanted to drag Rebecca into this. I just wanted her to be careful. Claire wiped her cheeks. I'm sorry, Becky, she whispered. I never wanted you to be caught between us. Rebecca looked between the two of them, broken, frightened, but undeniably trying. She stood, heart full. You're both hurting, she whispered. But neither of you is the enemy here. Claire covered her face with her hands, sobbing once, quiet, fragile. Evan moved toward her slowly. She didn't step away. He wrapped his arms around her. Claire sank into him, trembling. Mark exhaled deeply, relief softening his shoulders. Rebecca watched the two of them, unsure what the future looked like but certain of one thing. This wasn't a story of betrayal. Or manipulation. Or choosing sides. It was a story of fear. And truth. And two people who needed help. Rebecca stepped closer. We'll figure this out, she said softly. Together. Claire lifted her head, eyes shining. Thank you, she whispered. And in the soft stillness of that living room, with sunlight filtering across the floor, with tensions easing just enough for hope to slip through, Rebecca felt the first fragile sense of calm since that midnight call. It wasn't the end of the story, but it was the beginning of healing.